So strikes are underway as NHS workers have had enough. More specifically, it's ambulance workers and nurses who are striking for fair pay and conditions. Now, this is as much about patient safety than it is about pay. There's just not enough staff to handle the workload. Patients are waiting hours to get an ambulance, and people are dying. This is because so many are quitting the NHS, they are stretched thin, and look, no one can blame them. Of course, the odious right wing gremlins who constantly try and say they're the voice of the working class are out in full force against the workers. This is from disgraced journo Calvin McKenzie. Vile shitbags who drove ambulances for a living say they had no choice but to leave thousands of patients with strokes, heart attacks, and broken bones make their own way to hospital during tomorrow's strike. See how they feel if it's their mum. Upping their pay with your pain. So that's a right-wing journalist calling NHS workers vile shitbags. And also, you do realise that those that work for the NHS, a lot of them do have mums. They understand the pain too. But I don't expect anything different from this complete melt. We've also got another absolute clanger from Mark Dolan at GB News. The NHS would save millions if it stripped out woke nonsense. When people go to a hospital, they don't want a political lecture, they want treatment. Mr. Mark Dolan shares his thoughts on NHS nurses holding the biggest strike in history. So, withdrawing your labour, a practice that humans have done since forever, are wanting fairer pay and far better working conditions, is now woke. Mr. Dolan, what exactly does woke mean? Is it just anything you don't like? Yes. When right-wingers say something is woke, it means they don't like it. Ask them what woke means, they haven't got a clue. Now, let me say something to these right-wing hacks, especially the utter goblins at GBBs. First of all, GB News was set up with 60 million quid, so you and your ilk at the network don't represent the working class of this country. You represent the billionaire class. You are quite literally a billionaire media. And in case of you've forgotten, NHS workers are working class and they are struggling. Now, check this out. NHS workers had to be given salary top-up to avoid minimum wage breach. So they were getting paid so little that they were in danger of breaking the law. Let's be completely honest here. Now, the right, and when I say the right, I'm not talking about those that have right-wing views or those that vote for right-wing parties. I'm talking about the political right, those that work in the media, those that are political activists who genuinely have a skin in the game. They are utter sociopaths. They don't care about these health workers. They don't care about food banks. They don't care about the NHS. What the Tory party wants, is full privatisation. They want to destroy the principle of free at the point of use. They want an insurance-based system. Now, all this talk of reform, and you'll be hearing a lot of that going forward, is code word for moving to a US-style system. This has been a right-wing ideological project for decades in the making. Defund, demoralise, and scapegoat until we have essentially fooled the public into thinking that the NHS is no longer fit for the 21st century. What doesn't fit in the 21st century is healthcare that's rationed by the size of your wallet. Here's a few examples of the utter horror stories from US healthcare. My husband and I recently had our first child. We both have private healthcare insurance and chose an upgraded plan specifically for having a baby in mind. After giving birth with no extreme complications, we received a bill for over $15,000 after insurance. They charged both my insurance and my newborn's insurance. They charge our son for his own birth. We've got another one. We pay about $650 per month for insurance. Kid got kicked in the face running behind the swings at a playground. Split her upper lip open, and we went to the ER. She had 6 stitches, some minor pain medication, and lidocaine. We paid $2,000 for it altogether, for 6 stitches. Last example, and this one is just horrifying. After miscarrying and having to experience the staleness of the hotel room and transactional doctors, I thought it was the shittiest thing ever to get a $1,100 bill in the mail. It felt like, here's a fine for losing your baby, pay us. Now it looks like politicians are becoming more confident in being obvious with their intentions. Sajid Javid has basically outright said that the NHS needs to change and insurance needs to pay for it. Now, have you not noticed that the right, because I've certainly noticed, that it's not just about the NHS, that they will scapegoat every possible thing under the sun, but conveniently never talk about the glaringly obvious issue is that some stand to make a profit. It's funny how it's always refugees, immigrants, or benefit claimants, and now seemingly because the NHS is somehow woke, But they never talk about these systemic issues. They never talk about the corruption from money or profit. Why? Well, then they would have to talk about vested interests in politics, and they can't do that because they are a bunch of grifters who have connections or are financially rewarded to push this propaganda. How many people in Parliament are lobbied by private healthcare firms? How much pressure do corporations put on compliant media organisations? Or rather, how much messaging from corporations easily go through right-wing media? I've mentioned before, GB News, you've got The Sun, you've got the Daily Mail, you've got the Express. All these are owned by billionaires. What do they want mostly? To protect their wealth and power. Make no mistake, this isn't politicians or media figures trying to work out a solution for the NHS crisis. This is a long-held belief, even when the NHS satisfaction was at an all-time high. Now, one of the methods to undermine the NHS is to deliberately underpay and understaff it. Now, make no mistake, the workers, they do not want to strike, but it's exactly what the government wants. Rishi Sunak has quite literally said he will not renegotiate pay. He's doing this knowing full well that this will prolong strikes because it will. And that's the point. It's the exact same thing with the rail strikes. The government can literally end it immediately, but they don't want to because they want the public to turn on unions and organise labour. So we absolutely must back health workers in these strikes. If we don't stand up for those that need it, and we all need it, right? But also the healthcare workers right now, they need our support, then we will lose our NHS.